Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About Clutter. I'm your host, Margo Staten. Today is all about decluttering for beginners. So if you are someone who has never decluttered or feel overwhelmed by the amount of clutter you have in your home, maybe you're not sure where to begin or how to let go of sentimental items, you are in the right place today. So I'm going to cover 5 decluttering tips for those of you who desire a clutter-free home but might be a smidge stuck. I'll also have 2 bonus tips for you at the end. One of the biggest mistakes I see in the decluttering space that really tends to reduce motivation, stop momentum, is when we bite off more than we can chew. So you're probably looking around your space and you're like, oh my goodness, there's so many areas of clutter. Where do I even begin? How do I do this? It's never going to happen. It feels like there's no end in sight. I just don't have the time. I mean, the list kind of goes on and on and on. So if you're brand new or haven't been successful in achieving a subjective clutter-free space, the most important thing is to start small. And a lot of times I hear, but if I just do a drawer or something, is it really going to make an impact on the home? It's not necessarily going to make a huge impact on your space, but it's going to motivate you to do more. This has worked again and again and again. One of the biggest issues when it comes to decluttering is starting. The number one rule, and we have this posted in my Facebook group. If you are not yet a member, please join. It's called Declutter Your Life, and it's completely free. So starting is probably the hardest part, right? We spend a lot of time procrastinating and we make up excuses for why we haven't done it. Once you start, I promise you, you're not going to want to stop. Not only that, all those irrational thoughts that you have in your head about how the process will go, it is nothing like that. It is actually easy, it's fun, it's motivating, and you will see progress. But if you are new, start small. Okay, I know you want to declutter that entire kitchen. I know you want to declutter that entire closet or bedroom. I got it. You have big goals and you will get there. But first you need to start. So we want to decrease the feelings of overwhelm. And the best way to do that is to start small so you can get a quick win. So look around your space. Don't look too hard. And find, a drawer, right? It could be an underwear drawer, a sock drawer, a t-shirt drawer. It could be your nightstand. It could be a shelf in the linen closet. And just to be clear, it should not be the entire linen closet. You will get to that. It can be a drawer in your kitchen. Choose something small and bite-sized. We want to avoid the thoughts of overwhelming yourself by trying to declutter your entire house in a day. That is not possible unless you have a team of people doing it with you. The point of starting small is because it builds that momentum, the motivation, it gives you that quick win. You also are reassured that decluttering is not as complicated as you thought. Speaking of starting small, one of my favorite tips and tricks when it comes to decluttering is the 60-second purge. So you can even take a bag or a bin, set 60 seconds on the clock, and walk around your space, swiping things into the bin off of surfaces that you know you don't need. That is also an incredible win. You probably all know that surface clutter makes your home appear messier than it actually is. So start small, get it done, build that momentum one drawer at a time, and you will keep going. And then you will move on to bigger projects. But you want to avoid starting with something like your entire kitchen. Next, when it comes to successfully decluttering for beginners, you want to set goals. So decide on what you want to achieve and set a goal for yourself. It could be to declutter a certain number of items each day or to tackle a particular area of your home, which again, you will be doing in pieces. When it comes to goal setting, I don't want anybody to get overwhelmed or spend hours or days coming up with a decluttering plan. That is more for intermediates. the goal of this podcast is to get you started, to get you to roll up your sleeves and start. So setting goals could be something as little as identifying an area in your home that you want to declutter within the next 3 months. If you could do it faster, cool. Don't set unrealistic expectations. I can't tell you the amount of time that my clients were like, I'm going to declutter this garage in a week. I just find myself hysterically laughing, because specifically when it comes to a garage, because a garage is essentially like a massive junk drawer, and there's so many items in there, and it's really impossible to declutter that in a week. But it's good to aim high. So you can set goals by identifying, or rather prioritizing, a space in your home that you envision clutter-free. It could be a high traffic area, it could be a low traffic area. It doesn't really matter. It's whatever resonates with you, whatever you are comfortable with. So let's assume you chose your bedroom. So you are essentially going to just put bedroom on the top of a piece of paper or use your notes in your iPhone, and then you will break down the bedroom into sectors or sections of the space. So for example, you'll have things like the bed, the nightstand, the dresser, if you have multiple dressers, the closet, etc., etc. And then what you're going to do is you're going to tackle one section at a time. That is it. You're not going to tackle all of it in one setting. You're going to go piece by piece by piece. And the key here for all of you, my lovely beginners, is to avoid this one thing that tends to happen very often. And it is when you jump from room to room. Try to avoid doing this, because what ends up happening is you feel unaccomplished because you did a little bit in the kitchen, you did a little bit in the bathroom, you did a little bit in the entryway, and yet your home still looks incredibly cluttered. You want to go start to finish. Until you finish a project, a space, a section, you do not move on to the next one, no matter how tempting it might be. Because what will happen is when you do something from start to finish is you see the end result and you're like, oh my God, this is fantastic. I recently had a client who had a lot of kitchen countertop clutter. And one of the biggest issues is she's like, Margo, I have nowhere to put it. And I'm like, okay, cool. When we opened up her cabinets were overflowing with a bunch of stuff she didn't need. She had appliances that she's never used that were gifted to her for her birthday and for the holidays. She had, I think we counted 47 mugs. I'm like, this is a 3-person household. Why are we keeping 47 mugs? Okay. And I don't mean to offend anybody who's like a mug collector. But what ends up happening is that a lot of times we have surface clutter, countertop clutter in our kitchens. And it's true. We feel like we have nowhere to put it. And what we need to do actually is not start with decluttering the kitchen countertops. We have to start by decluttering the cabinets to make space in the cabinets to put the stuff that we currently have sitting on our countertops. Because typically the stuff on our countertops is stuff that we use on a daily basis. She's invested the time, the energy, the focus, and she ended up decluttering the cabinets, the drawers, and then made space to put the stuff off of the kitchen countertops in the drawers. So then she video calls me, and she tells me, Margo, I'm standing in the doorway of my kitchen for the last 10 minutes, and I'm just admiring how clean it is. She's like, is this really my home, right? She's just like, Margo, is this my home? This is what it feels like when you start and end a project. It feels like success, and then you want to move on to other areas of your home. So set goals and start small and go piece by piece. Here's a pro tip. Whenever you're decluttering, especially if you're new to this, you want to set a timer. You can set 2 timers. One, when you're going to start. So let's say you're like, okay, 12 o'clock on a Wednesday, I'm going to declutter for 30 minutes, right? Have 2 timers, one that goes off prompting you to start decluttering. This kind of overcomes procrastination. And the next one to go off when you should be done. There's something about knowing that there's an end in sight that makes us more productive. And your timer could be set for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever feels comfortable for you. Don't be an overachiever because you're just going to get exhausted. If you set a timer for 15 minutes and you feel like you can still keep going, then that's totally fine. But have an an end in sight that's realistic. And this is going to make you want to continue to do it. Next, when it comes to decluttering, it's a great habit to divide things into categories. The categories have to apply to the space that you're decluttering. So for example, if you're doing a drawer, you can create categories for socks, underwear, PJs, whatever. Basically, what this does is it helps you see how much of each item you have. So, because a lot of times I've noticed that folks who are new to decluttering, they'll kind of just create, they'll do the piles like keep and toss. And that's great. We absolutely should have piles for keep, donate, toss, and sell if it's applicable. But categorizing your items helps you do two things. The first thing is, like I mentioned earlier, it helps you see exactly how much of an item you have. So we encounter this a lot where like you'll have five pairs of scissors. And it's like, do you need 5 pairs of scissors, right? Or you're decluttering your kitchen drawer and you find 3 can openers. Do you need 3 can openers? As opposed to just dumping everything you quote unquote want to keep, again, you don't really have a full picture and a full view of the items that you have. So dividing things into categories is a fantastic thing to do. Not only that, my hope is that when you declutter, you have the intention to also organize the space, right? So when you're organizing the space, it'll make it easier where you have like, I'm putting my socks here and, maybe you're inserting drawer dividers and it's like the socks go on the left-hand side, the underwear go in the middle and my PJs go on the right. So right away, you're kind of saving time and organizing the stuff that you already have. Which leads me to my next point, and that is to create piles, right? So you're obviously going to be creating piles of what you want to keep, what you want to donate, what you want to sell, what you want to toss. Whenever you're decluttering, it's actually great to already have black garbage bags or boxes set up and labeled. You do not have to invest in any kind of label maker. You can essentially take a piece of paper with some Scotch tape and a Sharpie and write, sell, donate, toss, whatever. Having things be organized like that makes it much easier for you to get rid of the stuff afterwards. Here's a little pro tip. For items that you're going to be donating or throwing out, I encourage you to use black garbage bags. The reason I encourage you to do this is because I don't want you to see through the bag. If you're able to see items through the bag, oftentimes the next day or even later that evening, you're going to be tempted to go back in the bags and start taking things out. Another pro tip is that whatever you're donating or tossing, get it out of your home as quickly as possible. Too often, I see folks decluttering and literally moving clutter from one space to the other. Typically, these bags and boxes for donation or trash are sitting in your living room, are sitting in your garage, are sitting in your entryway, sometimes even the trunk of your car. Get the items that don't serve you, that you're not keeping, out of your home as quickly as possible. So if you're going to be donating, make sure you do a little bit of research about where these items are going to be going or pencil in scheduling a pickup, but get rid of them ASAP. And next, don't buy more stuff. As you are decluttering, try to contain yourself from buying more things. As a rule of thumb, more should leave your house than is going in. If you are in your decluttering season, if you are at that point where you have decided that a clutter-free space is important, it's what you value, it's what you want to achieve within the next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, right? If you are somebody who is committed, try to avoid bringing unnecessary items into your home. A lot of times we declutter an area, we get rid of a lot of stuff, we now have empty space, and then for whatever reason, we feel obligated to fill the empty space. Stop buying stuff. Empty space is good. If you need an item, that's totally fine. Obviously, you have needs, your family had needs. We naturally will bring things into our home. Value the clutter-free space that you are trying to achieve and don't go out and buy a bunch of stuff. Decrease those visits to Home Goods. Decrease the urge to buy those seasonal mugs that say pumpkin when you have a perfectly good mug at home from last year that you don't use. Be mindful of your purchases, right? We want to keep the clutter to a minimum, especially when we are in the decluttering season, and fall is a great time to declutter your home. A lot of folks are doing this in the preparation for the new year. So I highly encourage you to roll up those sleeves, choose a section of a space in your home, and start decluttering. I promise it will not be as bad as you think. So 2 bonus tips for you. One, and I think this is incredibly important. And again, this is something that we do in our Facebook group, and this is to celebrate your progress. If you are a beginner, if you're just starting out, motivation and momentum is crucial because you have yet to see your own personal results. So you don't have that currently as a motivator. So in our Facebook group, we actually support one another. We post pictures and progress and give tips. So if you need that kind of accountability and motivations, again, pop into our Facebook group. I will leave a link to it in the description or the show notes. So make sure that every single time you declutter a space, you celebrate that win, whether it's making yourself a delicious cup of coffee, giving yourself an extra 5-minute break to maybe, read through an article or a magazine or take a walk. Celebrate your progress. Reward yourself, big or small. Once, of course, you declutter your entire home, then I highly recommend a vacation to celebrate. But take time to celebrate your achievements and reward yourself for reaching your decluttering goals. And my last decluttering for beginners bonus tip is avoid starting with sentimental items first. Sentimental items will immediately stop your progress. We get emotional, there's attachments, we can't part with them, and we sometimes assume that it's going to be as challenging for the rest of the home, and that's just not true. So if you know you have sentimental items in your closet or in your kitchen or whatever, you have items that you are reluctant to part with, do not approach those areas first. Start very, very simple, build that momentum, get a little bit more experience, see the value in having a clutter-free area, and then eventually move on to the sentimental items. If you encounter a sentimental item, you don't have to make a decision, put it to the side. And there you have it, 5 decluttering tips for beginners. So thanks for listening. Good luck on your decluttering journey, and always remember to be good to yourselves.